Fabulous indeed, Anya. If you hear lots of music in the background, that's because there's a band here. The Men That Couldn't Hang are going to perform live a few numbers in a few minutes. Just first of all, the weather forecast. Generally dry and clear, but some snow and showers in eastern and southeastern coastal areas. Widespread frost setting in this evening, becoming severe tonight with fog patches also. Daytime till 10. As I say, the Men That Couldn't Hang are going to cross the road playing the Belfield Bar by 9 o'clock. We're going to play a few numbers for us here before that. Well, there you are now. We heard three numbers there. Started off in 1984 with the Sisters of Mercy. That was Walk Away. Just there you heard one from a band called the Eastern Dark. I played the main track from that 5-track EP the other day a few times, last week a few times, called Walking. That track from it there is called Over Now. And in the middle you heard one from the Primatons, which I played quite a lot as well, which is on What Goes On Records. That's called Don't Go Away. Now, as I said earlier on, the noise in the background while I was trying to read the weather forecast came from the Men That Couldn't Hang. We're here live to play some music, so might as well just go straight into some music. So go ahead, let's hear some music.
The band. I stand as a witness to jury and judge. For all my sins I will answer. My name you know, my trade you will see. I am the bounty hunter. I ask no friendship but seek no badge. Travel alone. I take no partners, lose no friends. I keep my Christian name unknown. My weapons are guns and cunning and speed, and my prize is the color of green. And if my service is easily bought, my faith has never been. Dead or alive, I carry them in the cowardly and the silence, for seeking bounty belonging to you. The road that delivers a judgment. My weapons are guns and cunning and speed, and my prize is the color of green. And if my service is easily bought, my faith has never been. Mine is the chase, the luck of the draw. Yours is the iron hand of state. Yours is the book and the bell and the rope. Mine is the devil's faith. Debt collecting, sin inspecting, bounty hunter. Never failing, never creating, bounty hunter. Stand as a witness, a jury and judge. For all my sins I will answer.
I forgot to turn on the microphone. Live on the programme with now, what time is this to prove we know the line? What time is it? Let's see the voice back there. Yeah, 18 minutes and 28 seconds past 8 o'clock. That was The Men They Couldn't Hang. I presume the song called Bounty Hunter or whatever.
That's right, yeah.
Right. Anyway, so well, listen, let's start at the beginning then with the band, because I have a thing here which says that The Men They Couldn't Hang, a common inspiration from punk allied to individual passions for country music, Irish traditional, soul, modern folk, reggae and pop standards, meant that whatever happened they wouldn't be predictable. So which one is your one of all those there?
I don't know, really. Well, I like early punk music.
Early punk music?
Yeah.
So where does the Irish traditional come in? Is that sort of like specific parts of London or something?
Well, hearing it in pubs in London and stuff like that. And we live round Hammersmith and Shepherd's Bush, and nearly all the pubs around there have got Irish folk music on the jukeboxes and things. So
and was it ever a question that you wanted to sort of ally yourself with like Boot Hill Foot Tappers and this supposed sort of revival thing that happened in 84, 85? Or was it that you just liked the music and said, listen...
Well, it was a matter of like, allying ourselves with them, but we knew most of those people anyway before we started up, and we hung around with them, listened to roughly the same kind of music as they did, and we were just one of the bands, I suppose.
Well, like the music press would try to tell us things, though, like seeing as we weren't from London, that there was a scene going on there, that something really was happening, and like I got the impression that maybe there wasn't, that it was just like...
No, it was a bit blown up, really. I think they wanted it to be a scene. There was a little bit of an underground thing. There was Pogues, Beatles, Shillelagh Sisters, who they got a major deal but never got anywhere. Bands like the Bloody Hellbillies, Folk Devils, people like that. But it never really, the Pogues, the only ones who really cracked it in a big way.
Yeah.
You know.
Do you want to crack it in a big way?
Not in the same way as the Pogues have, no. I mean, I think we've got more rockiness than the Pogues have. And
well,
I think...
would you like to crack it in a big way like the charts say? I mean, the top 10, top of the pops, the works.
Well,
to be up there with George Michael.
No, I wouldn't like to think it was ever been the kind of band that would be compared to George Michael or anything like that. But I mean, I wouldn't mind seeing us on top of the pops. Give me that a bit of a thrill.
Well, then what about when you say the Clash for yourself? I mean, there was like one member of your band was also in the Nips, where Shane MacGowan had been as well.
Yeah.
So I mean, like if you go from the Clash right through to all that, like were you all there all at the same time?
Well, we weren't all together at the same time. You know, we didn't all know each other at that time. Like 77 time. But most of us were, into that kind of thing. I mean, we're all quite old. We remember it well. Because
when the Pogues were emerging a few years ago, I mean, the second band, the one always behind the Pogues, was the Men They Couldn't Hang.
Yeah.
Now, you say you haven't sort of broken it big in the same way, but I mean, do you think you've got across what you always wanted to get across from the days you started?
Yeah, mostly. I mean, well, when we first started, we weren't really dead sure what we were going to do, or where we were going. We started off doing this kind of thing, just busking in subways, acoustic guitars. There was no motive behind it, no plan, and it just happened, and it's been quite good. And although, I think we cut across to a wider kind of audience than the Pogues do. We're not too restricted by, like, typical folk styles or anything like that. We can go into rock or other influences as well.
Well, there was a thing about one song, just to bring in an Irish element again, which was the Green Fields of France, which is it's a really well-known song in Ireland, right? Now, that meant an awful lot to the Men They Couldn't Hang. Why?
Oh, yeah. Well, mainly because we believe in it, where it says, and it's a really good song anyway. And it's when we first started, we did loads of other people's songs, because we were just busking, and that was probably the best one. And we thought it was, good enough for us to do in our own style and to record once we became a proper band. And I think, without being sort of immodest, I think we made quite a good job of it. I don't think we spoilt it or anything like that.
Well, one of the most, in fact, probably the best-known song by the Men They Couldn't Hang is still probably Iron Masters. Now, do you think Iron Masters was something along the lines of, yeah, listen, we've done our own Green Fields of France, or at least we put in 3 or 4 minutes exactly something we really wanted to say that was important?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, to me, that's one of my favourite songs of ours. And it's got a lot of passion in it, whereas Green Fields of France was sort of passion held back a little bit, and anger held back. That song was much more, I don't know, well, people go completely wild at gigs to it. But I mean, I think we've written songs along the same lines as well since then. The main thing of that was that it was a good one to come after Green Fields of France, and it done well in the Indies.
Do you think it helped around the fact that it was released around the time of the miners' strike?
I think, yeah, probably did help.
That was the whole idea of the song.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, but I mean, at the same time, like, for instance, it wasn't the usual sort of indie band, miners type song or something, that like you were trying to sort of show some compassion for the sort of the cop who might be a brother of somebody on the picket line sort of thing.
Song.
That's Shirt of Blue.
Oh,
Yeah.
well, are we still talking about Iron Masters? Well, see, Short of Blue brings us up to the second album.
They're talking major labels now.
Major labels now, oh
Yeah.
God, yeah. Absolutely. Well, then what about that first album then? I mean, you have various things on it, like, you know, a song about nuclear power, a song about baby bashing, a song about drugs. I mean, like, it's not exactly the Pogues, is it?
No.
Everyday love.
Most of the songs are, well, even most of all our songs even now, but particularly that first album anyway, they're all written from experiences that we've had or with our friends, you know, people we know have had, you know, like the sort of drug abuse and not particularly so with Hush Little Baby, but with the other songs, you know, and people having a hard time moving, because, you know, like so many people move to London thinking, like particularly what you were saying about the music papers giving a false impression of this big scene happening in London, which wasn't really going on. People move there and get let down and end up really in a bad way about it, or just very disappointed.
Well, is there much room in all of this then with such serious subjects to sort of, you know, have a good bop, to dance, to enjoy yourself,
Oh,
to
yeah.
have fun?
Well, I mean, I think people have fun too. Iron Masters and the new one goes to Cable Street. Most of our stuff, you know, people can have a lot of people don't really notice that it's got any serious content in it. You know,
Yeah.
they think it's just a bit of a bash. Some of the
Well,
stuff.
that's at a gig, but I mean, surely on record they do.
On record, if they take the time to listen to it, but yeah.
So what about at the gigs over the last 5 days? Have they been good fun?
They've been good fun, yeah. It's been quite an experience, some of them. But, I mean, none of them have been the same. They've all been completely different from each other, you know. Different types of places, different type of audience.
Comedy Youth Club.
So, like, you have a second album out, so what's going to happen next? I mean, like, do you have plans then to do this, not necessarily Top of the Pops, but to sort of go that step further, or to get a single that wouldn't just be a hit in the indie charts?
Well, none of our stuff can be a hit now in indie charts because we're on a major anyway. It's all a matter of, I think, really whether it gets played on the radio or not. You know, we're not. I think that the new single is probably more likely than anything we recorded before to break into the.
Had you
charts.
released this one before the Ghost of Cable Street? I played this last week, so I've seen that only 6 months ago.
It's on the album. There's a different version on the second album, but on the B-side of Gold Rush, there's like almost a demo of it on there, which we did as a kind of live in the studio thing. And that was when it was first written, and this version is like a lot different from that.
So where do you go from here? You're playing about 4 or 5 more dates in Ireland this week. You play tonight in Belfield, you play tomorrow in the Bridge in Waterford, you play Wednesday in the Bagot, and there's a few more after that which I can't remember.
I can't remember.
Well, we have the list somewhere.
Just
Yeah,
one.
Peter's list. Yeah, we'll get it later on
Limerick.
when we play the single. Cork, Limerick.
Yeah.
Okay, well, listen, thanks for dropping in. You're going to have to go across the road, even though it is only like 100 yards. Let's hear another song.
All right. This is called Midnight Train.
Midnight Train. This train leaves where the sun goes down, where the lights are low in the northern town. Starts without a whistle and leaves without a word. Just the light turns red and a driver on board. On the mountain lakes, it's a downward track. There's Lancashire and the city's black, where the roads was red and the cotton wool, where the chimney sucks and the cotton mills close. Midnight rain, like an echo of heavy rain falling down. Midnight rain, carrying something like a poison from the ground. From Nottingham down to Bosworth Fields, past canals and forests and the rivers still. By the rails there's a boy who begins to wave, feels the sting of the wheels like a chill of the green. Midnight rain, like an echo of heavy rain falling down. Midnight rain, carrying something like a poison from the ground. and it's London bound, over rusty junctions and the underground. When it east to the coast, it's the end of the line, a terminal core with a nuclear giant midnight rain, like an echo of heavy rain falling down. Midnight rain, carrying something like a poison from around. It's a midnight rain, like a chain round the body of the land. 7 boxes full of troubles, waiting for Pandora's end.
Thank you very much.
This time I do have the microphone on. All right, the men that couldn't hang, thank you very much indeed for dropping in. Swill, have a good time over the next 4 days or 5 days in Ireland. And I'm going to play the single now, Ghost of Cable Street.
Like Caesar marching to the east, marching mostly with his men, dressed in clothes of deepest black, like a gathering hurricane. This is the British Union with its flag of black and red, a flag that casts a shadow in Berlin and in Madrid. Listen to the sound of marching feet, and the voices of the ghosts of Cable Street. Vests and stones, battens and a gun. Because we shall beat those fractures down. From mile by mile they come on down to a place called Cable Street. Another man
Oh, we got two more numbers there you heard for the men that couldn't hang. That's the B side of the current single, Dream Machine, and before that you heard the A side. That's Ghosts of Cable Street.